All right, so let's move on to our next section, which is topic of the week. Now, this is an interesting topic, very interesting, and we're going to be discussing the current loot box epidemic that is sweeping video games, especially video games releasing this holiday season. Now, just for those who don't know, loot boxes are random chests or boxes that you open in a game, not in the game's menus more than anything, where you get rewards or items that are random. You have no control over what you receive. So, for example, in a game like Overwatch, which most of you should know, you open loot boxes as you level up, and you can, when you open these loot boxes, you get different kinds of skins for your characters. You get random voice lines for those same characters. You get weird little sprays that you can spray around in the environment, and that's basically what loot boxes are. The catch is obviously they're fun.
You don't know what's inside the loot box.
You don't know what's inside the loot box, and all of these games, a lot of these games that we're talking about with loot boxes, you can buy with real money. So kind of like they mainly come a lot from mobile games, but you can spend real cash to open a bunch of loot boxes to get these random rewards that you have no control over.
Your real money.
Yes. Now, the thing with loot boxes, people are getting increasingly angry with them as they get into more and more games. For example, like Forza 7 that just released, like Shadow of War that's also just released, Destiny that's out now. The thing with these loot boxes is they're meant to, most people enjoy them more when they're designed around cosmetics only. So things that don't actually impact the game when you're playing, game design. They are aesthetics. They're basically
generally they're supposed to be very cheap because if you get a loot box, when you buy a loot box, you're gonna get it for $1 or less. And then that's gonna just alter the aesthetics of your player. That's pretty much what a loot box is supposed to contain.
Yes.
But as soon as it starts affecting
the
gameplay, and it starts affecting the performance of your player, then that means that the developers are now, well, you are at the developer's mercy about how hard the game can be.
Yeah, so the big conversation, that's a good point to make. The big conversation lately is with gamers has been, can loot boxes be considered gambling? And a lot of gamers have taken a hard stance saying, yes, this is a form of gambling because you're spending real money and you might not get exactly what you want. You're gambling your money and you might not get what you want out of that box per se. Now, the interesting thing that's just developed over the last few days is we've had the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, which is the board in America that gives video games the ratings, whether they're teen, mature, children, adults only. They have come out and said, from one of their spokespeople, the ESRB does not consider loot boxes to be gambling. While there is an element of chance in these mechanics, the player is always guaranteed to receive in-game content, even if the player unfortunately receives something they don't want. We think of it as a similar principle to collectible card games. Sometimes you open a pack and get a brand new holographic card you've had on your eye on for a while, but other times you end up with a pack of cards you already have. Now, I understand strictly by the definition they're presenting. Yes, loot boxes are not gambling because you are always guaranteed something out of them. Even if it's not something that you want. But that doesn't take into account the predatory nature of these loot boxes because they rely on psychological aspects of flooding your brain with dopamine when you get exactly what you want out of that loot box and encouraging you to spend more money. And mind you guys, I should really make this point. We're dealing with $60 games that we are buying up front. This isn't a mobile game which is free to play, and then you say, okay, this is a free game, I'll spend a couple bucks here and there on these loot boxes or whatever. We are paying up front for these games, full price. On top of that, this is there.
Can I, because I just Googled this, and can I give you the definition of gambling?
Oh yeah, please.
The definition of gambling is take risky action in the hope of a desired result. Second definition, an act of gambling an enterprise undertaken or attempted with a risk of loss and a chance of profit or success. So what essentially gambling is spending money on something that you do not know will benefit you. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm on the fence for this because
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I'm on the fence simply because that there are some games that are gonna do this, and if you don't want to buy the game, then just don't get it. Especially when it comes to multiplayer games. Multiplayer games have always had the element of not feeling, well, you have the feeling that you didn't receive enough. Whether you paid for this item, whether you played this game for 100 hours and you paid $60 for it, whether they weren't enough. There's always a fault in multiplayer games because we always want more. If someone gives you the option of paying to have an advantage over other players,
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. That's for me. I love that you brought that up because that's where, for me, it also starts falling apart. Because psychologically, for example, I'm playing Star Wars Battlefront 2, which we'll talk about in what we've been playing. But the only way you can progress in that game is through loot boxes. In terms of you unlocking abilities to use in multiplayer, is only through loot boxes. That's where you get your cards that give you abilities for your stormtrooper, your ship, or your droid. And that is kind of scary because some of these cards do up to, like, for example, 40% extra health for your insane. Ship. Now, and that would be termed as a legendary card, which has a rarer chance to drop in the loot box. It's not a common item. It's your chances of getting that kind of card in the loot box are rare. Yeah. Now, imagine if some dude is, fair enough, it's his own money, but he's spending like an extra $100 or whatever, and he's unlocking all these extra abilities. The game is essentially turning into a pay-to-win scenario. Because let me tell you, taking on a ship in Star Wars Battlefront 2 with 40% extra health is a game changer. Yeah. And that now starts turning into a pay-to-win. Spend money and you're automatically better than everyone else.
And the loot boxes in Battlefront 2, how much are they going to be in that?
Oh, they're not telling us yet. EA are keeping that under wraps.
Can you earn them through playing?
Oh, yes. Definitely. I mean, you always, loot boxes, you always earn currency or through experience as you're playing the game. You will earn currency to unlock loot boxes. Just by playing. That applies to every game. Yeah. Now, the thing is, some games will be more grindy than others because what does the publisher of the game want? They want you to spend more money. How do we get them to spend more money? Make the game more grindy. Make them have to play for so long to unlock things or get these loot boxes that the player just says, you know what, I might as well spend cash rather than play this game for 8 hours or longer just to get one item.
Okay. I got an interesting view because we actually spoke about this today. I agree with the whole concept, pay to win and so on. I mean, I play one of the biggest free-to-play games, Dota, which has the best,
loot box kind of integration.
Yeah, because that's just purely...
It's purely cosmetics, yeah.
But, I mean, I am also going to ask you guys this. You've seen the current state of finance or economy and how the world has changed and prices have gone up over the last 10 years. But the price of games hasn't moved. Like, imagine, the actual cost of producing these games has gone up exponentially, whereas the price point hasn't changed. Yeah. So now I'm looking at this from the point of developers, right? You have a game that you spend multi-million dollar projects where you have to market the game on a larger scale, you have to spend more money producing and so on, and you have to deal with so much more competition in your space. So let's go with Battlefront 2 as an example. When that game comes out, being an online multiplayer game, they have a smaller window in which to get the fan base that's not going to be playing what's the other game? Player-known Battlegrounds, or the next Call of Duty, or whatever. So you've got a small space in time to get your market going.
Yeah, you have to get your product.
And you're only selling this product at $60. So you're like, okay, how do we capitalize on the interest that we have with this game right now? And that's where the loot boxes come into play. If the loot boxes are so open to say, everyone can open this after a certain amount of levels, then we are actually losing the point. People won't buy the loot boxes. So it's a double-edged sword. You have to also look at it from the developer side. That look, some cases we need to make this money as quick. We don't want to be like 400. 400 has lost its whole thing because of the loot box system. But I
understand. I understand your point, but then my problem comes in on. Well, for me, I have a positive and negative opinion on this whole scenario simply because that if you are going to involve loot boxes that Michael, you or Ole, if you two are going to pay, say, $10 or something. I know that even seems high, but if you guys are going to pay $10 for a loot box that you know you're going to get, say, high level orcs, or you're going to get better weapons than me, then I should have known before I purchased that game, and the developer should have told me that the game that I'm purchasing here is going to be incredibly hard towards the end, because it's either going to require me to grind for 20 to 30 hours, or I'm going to have to spend my cash to actually make an effort to play with you guys online.
It depends as well. Because, I mean, they do, in all fairness, they do warn you sometimes, say this game contains in-game transactions and so on. But I get what
on console?
Yeah, they actually do.
Where? Which game?
They let you know. Like when you see certain, I mean, I'm talking from Steam basically, but you see, whenever you see certain games, they have that small disclaimer.
On PS4 and Xbox, they don't do that shit.
On the store?
No.
What,
and as well, here's the thing. It's not on the box.
This product involves
not everyone.
Purchases.
Not everyone buys.
But
it's
not.
There.
Is it on PS4?
It's there. On the PlayStation Network, it says this game involves. It says includes in-game purchases or something like that.
So my point is that I understand the system in place.
Yeah, but you should.
But I think that it's also based. There's a good balance to find between. 2K, for example, everyone was up in arms about.
Because that was insane.
No, but do you realize that I played the last 2K. The last 2K had the exact same currency system. They even cost the same amount of money for your VC coins.
But I think the grind got worse, isn't it?
The grind.
Yeah, but did they change the game to make it much harder?
They have made the game a bit harder. But what I've seen in a good balance is where you can have these in-game transactions, but when you matchmake people, it's not putting people who are level. If you see someone right now in NBA 2K that's a level 92, you're not playing with that guy. You're not gonna go. He will cross you up. You're gonna keep your grind, because it's called race to 99. Like who can get to level 99 first. So when you start the game, you're level 60. Oh,
I kind of understand, because even when I played Ghost Recon,
and they're just there, but you grind, and then some people can buy things and get up to level 70. But you can just not play with them. You don't have to do anything. You just stay to what you're doing and how you want to grind. It's even bragging rights for you. If you're like, bruh, I got to level 80, big grind.
Whether you paid or not.
Exactly.
See, but my problem, cycling back to a point you brought up earlier about these exponential rises in game dev costs, fair enough, it is true. But the thing I have a problem with is the freaking AAA industry is unsatiable. The big publishers who are already making the biggest games and the most money have to go in on every single practice that is almost anti-consumer and makes them the most money. These AAA publishers engorge on every single practice, whether it's season passes, 3 tiers of your game being sold: bronze, silver, gold edition. You've got your merchandising. Your IP is already being greatly merchandised. You're already underpaying your voice actors and game devs, and then on top of that, you're adding these loot box microtransactions that are psychologically predatory. Because I'm sorry, but they're psychologically predatory. It is what it is. So and then you're saying, crying foul. These dev costs have gone up. EA last financial call, on their earnings call, guess how much money they made on Ultimate Team alone? $650 million. FIFA Ultimate Team. by itself.
I'll bring this point to you.
You know what I'm saying?
Get what you're saying, but don't you think you want to make as much money as you can?
You do, but that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. The thirst for money is fine, but then they take these things that can be beneficial to the consumer, like loot boxes, and then they pervert it. They twist it into this horrible, twisted, disgusting thing, like Star Wars. Where Star Wars is at right now.
Let me ask you this question though: if you're paying $60 for a game and then you spent 100 hours on this game, and let's say that let's even give an example, Battlefront 2, you pay $60 for this game, you play through the campaign. We don't know how long the campaign is.
It's gonna be like 4 hours.
Yeah, it's gonna be short.
I swear to God.
But then you play online for, let's say you pump in 40 hours into the multiplayer campaign. Hasn't that $60 done you enough as a consumer good?
But the environment when you're playing was not fun because Jimmy Joe down the road was paying and whooping your ass.
Jimmy Joe paid. But Jimmy Joe paid more.
But it's
Jimmy Joe paid more for more.
But exactly, then the multiplayer element of the game is bullshit because it's pay to win. A game should not be made where paying more means you're automatically better than anywhere else. There's no argument you can give me that goes against that. I'm sorry. Someone paying more and then just by spending more they're better at you than the game? That's crazy.
No, we agree with that.
You know what I mean? The game should not be broken. We need balance.
I agree with PK in saying that there will be a level. Like, dude, we take for granted the price of games. We become a bit spoiled by it.
Yeah, we do.
Because $60, dude, in essence, like, look at The Witcher. Let's just compare how these games work, right? If you spend at that time $60 on The Witcher, you're gonna get one of the best gameplay experiences you could ever get.
Top 10.
World scope.
But The Witcher is a unicorn.
No, but I'm still using a unicorn as an example. You have games that are fantastic games that you only spend $60 on, your personas and so on, right?
Yeah.
But then you also have games where it's like you have your DLCs, they have like Batman selling you the season pass without even showing you what's going on or whatever.
That's the thing, they do all of that.
And that's what I'm saying, but it's a balance. Like, you have to look at it in the sense that there will be games sometimes that mess up this system.
Yes.
And then there are also times where you have to understand why they're doing what they're doing.
Yes.
You know, like the FIFA system thing, it's making them money.
To be fair, it is greed.
I have never touched it. Yeah, but I've never touched that
Ultimate Team. But Ultimate Team is balanced. So I don't mind you making hella money in a system that's balanced. I don't give a crap because I can play Ultimate Team without, like you just said, you've never spent a dime in Ultimate Team, but you don't feel like you are being undermined for not spending money because you've paid for the product that you're meant to get, and you don't feel like you have to spend money just to keep up with everybody else. And there, I have no problem.
To be fair,
EA's 650 mil is good for them because they've made a system where people are willing to pay and it's balanced. You never hear people complaining about Ultimate Team.
Yeah, but
almost never.
Just reminded me, the only problem I have with the NBA thing is the preview system. That's the one thing that...
Oh yeah, where you can't see
that's the one thing where I'm like, that does
buy.
not make sense.
Yeah.
No, that's just too much.
Yeah.
So we have to also be a bit more tolerant to understand that the current climate of gaming right now, these guys are trying to make as much money as they can.
And
in every
and you know what? You're right, because as well, a lot of these games now are games as a service, where a game launches and the publisher aims on providing support over 2, 3, 4 years consistently, and that isn't cheap. And the way your one-time sale can't pay, for example, new maps, new characters, new weapons,
unless you're being sold
unless you're being sold ridiculous DLC. That's where you put in microtransactions in terms of loot boxes, where someone opts in and says, oh, you know what, the game is balanced. Let's pretend this is a balanced game, Overwatch. The game is balanced, right? And you're like, you know what, I want a better chance at getting certain skins for this character. I'm going to spend an extra $5, $10. And on top of that, you're like, I'm getting free content. I'm getting free updates consistently. That makes the most sense. And that's what EA have tried to do with Star Wars, because there was a season pass for Battlefront 1. And now there's no season pass for Battlefront 2. We're going to get free maps, free characters, all of that. And it's supposed to be funded through the microtransactions. Mind you, EA has the money to fund this in any case without the micros. But the thing is, they're perverting the system. And where my worry is, where I get with the my thing is, I do not trust the goddamn AAA industry, because they always go for the worst, most money-making scheme, 110%, and that's flipping it back in is where the ESRB, I think, need to step in and say, guys, look, we're gonna put this label on a box that this is in-app purchases, like you're saying, put that on the box itself. Put, for example, the RNG drop rates for, let's say, a legendary card in Star Wars. You know your odds. Like, oh, you've got a 2% chance of ever getting this. At least make it more transparent.
But then the developers don't make these decisions. The developers have no say in what's going on in the development of the game itself.
They're probably mad seeing
well, I mean, look at
their games get twisted into these monsters. Do you know what the higher-ups
are probably asking themselves right now? Well, what I think they're asking themselves right now? If the system is so bad and everybody's complaining, why are they still buying our video game?
Well, like a good example is like, they also look at games like League of Legends. Mm-hmm. League of Legends is terrible when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Like if you compare it to Dota. With Dota, everything is literally just your cosmetics, 100%. Yeah. And you're never ever asked to buy anything. There's no in-game adverts. There's no prompts to ever buy anything. You just play. And if someone else on the map has a better looking character than you, you're like, okay, I need to go do something.
Yeah. Whereas, you spend that $1.
Yeah. Whereas League of Legends, you buy such an equipment that makes you stronger in the upcoming matches, or equipment that makes you faster and so on. So you're literally paying to win.
Yeah.
But League of Legends is still so big. So they know that in as much as we can complain, there'll always be the people that will just...
If the system hasn't crashed yet,
but guys,
then we can continue doing
remember,
That's how they're thinking.
With loot box mechanics, it always works like mobile games with the whales. So the vast majority of people are never paying for this crap.
Not.
It's the few whales who cannot control themselves. The guy who buys NBA 2K or FIFA, that's his one game for the year, and he's gonna dump an extra $200 into that game, and that's where the vast money is coming from. Now, these few whales are in certain games now are being the focus and detracting from the overall multiplayer design of the game. I think that's where that's where we're all coming to.
Yeah.
It's like, loot boxes aren't bad, inherently wrong. They're actually very, very good idea and have benefits for both the publisher and the consumer and the customer.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that where we're headed now, because guys, we've seen what's happened with Forza 7. It's loot box furor over the mod system with that. Shadow of War. The loot boxes actually haven't turned out to be that bad, but everybody's been freaking out about that.
Do you think it's gonna get super bad?
Oh, come on. This is the AAA industry. You're telling me you don't think it's gonna get worse before it gets better?
I mean, the only reason why I'm asking that is simply because that I don't think that every single multiplayer game that's going to come out is going to involve a loot box system required for you to spend money.
Patrick, look at Uncharted 4 has loot boxes. Did you know that? Uncharted 4 multiplayer's they're all cosmetic, and that's great. Actually, I almost bought loot boxes in there. I was like this close because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy like £20 because they've actually got really cool cosmetics, but the game was never unbalanced, and they provide free maps. Free co-op mode was added a few months ago. Everything's been free post-launch, so I was like, oh yeah, I'll spend an extra 20 because I love Naughty Dog.
So would you be comfortable if we reached a point in the distant future, let's say 10 years from now, and all multiplayer games had loot boxes, but on top of that, the games were balanced?
Yeah, yes, I don't have a problem because those games will be like platforms, right?
Because meaning that if I play with you, then that means that because I didn't spend £200 in a game, and you spent £1 in the loot boxes, then we can still play together and it would still feel good.
But were those loot boxes, were they cosmetic only, or did they, because there's so many combinations you can put to implement into loot boxes. It's kind of scary. There's so many ways, because Star Wars, coming back to Star Wars, it's got a system with scraps. that you use, you earn scrap with every loot box you earn, like let's say 10 scrap, right? And these scraps you're meant to collect to create weapon mods, like if you want a scope or you want whatever. Yeah. The weapon mods cost something like 900 scrap, and you're earning maybe 10-15 scrap every...
Per battle?
No, less. In the beta, it was less. You're earning like 10-15 scrap every like hour and a half. A mod costs like, sorry, not 900. A mod is like 300 scrap. Yeah. Now, in my mind, what am I thinking? Should I grind for 40 hours? Or I can just buy a loot box. You know what I mean? Like, and have my guaranteed scrap and get a lot of scrap, and then, you know what I mean? So, exactly. So, that's one thing, that it's scary what they can do with these loot box mechanics. But I'm in total agreement with you guys in terms of like, loot boxes can be good on either side, and there's nothing wrong with having them even in a $60 game. My worry is the implementation and the psychological factor that I brought up, because just to even as we close this out, there's a video game psychologist and author, Jamie Madigan. He said this to Eurogamer during an article, because loot boxes are everywhere. He said, whenever you open a loot box, you may get something awesome or you may get trash. This randomness taps into some of the very fundamental ways our brains work when trying to predict whether or not a good thing will happen. We're particularly excited by unexpected pleasures like a patch of wild berries or an epic skin for our character. Exactly. This is because our brains are trying to pay attention to and trying to figure out such awesome rewards. But unlike in the real world, these rewards can be completely random or close enough to not matter to scrap. And we can't predict randomness, but the reward system in your brain doesn't know that. So the psychological aspect of it is also what I really don't like. And mind you, a lot of kids are playing these games, and kids are easier to prey upon with gambling tendencies and that sort of thing.
$10, I guess.
Exactly. So you know, it's a really fascinating conversation, because it's a really big conversation that the gaming industry and the gaming community at large is having with itself. And I think the way we've spoken about it today is kind of reflective of that. But I think we're gonna have to watch out, because there's a storm coming, guys. That's the way I feel. There's a storm coming. Be ready for it. There's some guys who are gonna do loot boxes good. Some people are gonna do loot boxes bad.
But a balance will come.
So a balance will come. It's up to people like me and you to try and inform the people that we can reach about whether a game's loot box is a predatory or not. And you guys as well, stay sharp and just keep an eye out for this sort of thing.
Let us know what you think.
Especially 2018 is gonna be the year of the loot box. But
loot box, yeah.
That's gonna wrap it up anyway for this topic of the week. Pay $2 extra if you want to randomly find out what happens in the next episode. Yeah, exactly. And you might just get a chance to watch the next segment.
If you want the HD version, just pay an extra $2.
It might happen, but it might not.
It might not.
But yeah, guys, thanks for watching this segment, and catch us for our last one.